I want you to picture a scene. And it's a scene that is happening right now, probably in thousands, maybe tens of thousands of living rooms across India. And honestly, it's not just India. It's in Indian households, in, I don't know, New Jersey, in London, in Singapore. It's everywhere.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. You have a couple, they're sitting at the dining table. They look stressed, really stressed. As a child, maybe 4 or 5 years old, happily playing with blocks on the floor.
Completely oblivious.
Totally oblivious.
Oh.
And the parents, they aren't looking at the child. They're looking at a piece of paper. Or, more likely these days, an iPad.
And let me guess what's on that screen. It's not a drawing the child just made.
Not even close. It is the syllabus for the UPSC exams, or maybe the IIT-GE entrance criteria, or the complete step-by-step roadmap to get into Harvard Med School. The child is 5, and the parents are already trying to reverse engineer the next 18 years of this human being's life. Parents like this. Maybe, if we're being really honest with ourselves, we are parents like this sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. It's the project management approach to parenting, isn't it? You treat your child like a startup that needs to hit its KPIs by, Q3 of 2038.
Exactly. It was so rigorous. It's calculated. It's this massive mobilization of resources. I mean, time, money, all that emotional energy. People study these syllabi years in advance. They structure the child's hobbies, their reading lists, their discipline, even their sleep schedules, all around this one future goal of material success.
It's a strategic campaign.
It is a campaign to conquer a specific peak in the material world.
And, looking at it objectively, it's impressive. The level of dedication is just staggering. But it really reveals what we value, doesn't it?
What we prepare for.
We value what we prepare for.
And that, right there, brings us to the twist, the question that really just stops you in your tracks if you let it sit for a minute. If we prepare with that level of, military intensity for a career exam, what does the preparation look like for the other side of the coin? What's the syllabus for reconnecting a child to their spiritual self, to their shabda?
That is the question of the hour. And usually the answer you get is just silence. Or maybe, we send them to a generic shloka class for 45 minutes on a Sunday.
Right. We have a PhD-level strategy for their career and a kindergarten-level strategy for their soul.
And that imbalance is exactly what we are here to discuss. It's not just a gap. It's a chasm, a huge one.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. This is a special one. We're continuing our massive journey into the world of Indian wisdom. This is, believe it or not, part 5 of our series on the Gurukulam system. And today, we are getting real. We aren't just talking about the history or the glory days.
No.
We are talking about the challenges in reviving the Gurukulam educational system.
And just to clarify for everyone listening, when we say challenges, we're not talking about zoning laws or buying land or building classrooms.
No, not the logistics.
Those are logistical issues that can be solved. We're talking about the internal challenges, the mental blocks, the software compatibility issues, if you will, that exist in our modern minds and stand in the way of a true revival of Indian education.
And we have identified 2 massive hurdles to clear today based on the source material. One is about this concept of preparation and a fascinating and honestly slightly terrifying idea called required amnesia. And the other is about belief systems.
These are the invisible barriers. You can build the most beautiful Gurukulam infrastructure in the world. You can have the cows, the trees, the mud huts, the whole 9 yards. But if you don't address these 2 psychological and spiritual hurdles in the parents and, by extension, in the students, the transmission of knowledge simply will not happen.
Just as a performance, then.
It will be a pantomime of education, not the real thing.
And before we dive into the deep end here, I have to mention the why now. Why are we talking about this specifically today? Because all of this context, everything we're about to discuss, is effectively the prelude to a massive release from Leela Gurukulam.
That's right. Next Wednesday, that's February 25th, 2026, they are dropping the Exploring Pramanas kit.
And having seen some of the preview materials, this really feels like the toolkit we've been waiting for. It's in English, it's designed for ages 10 to adult, and it is specifically built to bridge the very gaps we are about to spend the next hour discussing.
It's essentially the repair manual for the problems we're going to outline today.
Exactly. So as you listen to us unpack these challenges, and they might feel a bit heavy, we'll warn you now. Keep in mind that there is a practical solution dropping in just a few days.
It is the how-to for the what-if we are about to explore.
Okay, let's unpack this. Challenge number 1.
Yeah.
Preparation.
Yeah.
but not the kind where you go out and buy textbooks. You used a phrase a moment ago that really gave me pause. Required amnesia.
Yeah.
That sounds ominous. Like something out of a sci-fi dystopian novel.
Yeah.
What exactly are we talking about here?
It does sound dramatic, doesn't it? But it's actually a fundamental concept in Indian metaphysics about how a human being develops. Think about the ultimate goal of the Gurukulam system. The source material is very, very clear on this. The goal isn't just to get a job or be a good citizen.
Right, it's bigger than that.
The goal is to reconnect the student to their shabda.
Okay, let's anchor that term first because it's so important. Shabda. We usually hear it translated as sound, but in this context, it means something much, much bigger.
Much bigger, infinitely bigger. Shabda here refers to the primordial vibration, the spiritual universal self. It is the resonance of the universe that exists within you. It is your connection to the divine source, to reality itself.
So the goal of education, then, isn't about filling you up with information.
No. The goal of education, traditionally, was to help you hear that sound again, to help you remember who you actually are beneath all the layers of identity we pile on.
Okay, remember who you actually are. That phrase right there implies I've forgotten something.
Precisely. And this is where required amnesia comes in. As a child grows, as a soul enters a body and engages with the world, it has to engage with material reality. A baby has to learn that this is my hand, that is a spoon, this is hunger, that is mother.
The basics of being human.
The basics. And to function on this physical plane, you have to develop other pramanas, other means of knowledge like sensory perception, which is pratyaksha, and inference anumana.
So you're busy downloading the drivers for Human Life 1.0.
Exactly. You are learning language, social norms, mathematics, geography. You're building an identity. I am a boy. I am smart. I am Indian. I like pizza. And in the process of zooming in on all these specifics, there is a necessary, almost automatic forgetting of that spiritual universality.
You lose the wide-angle lens to focus on the macro lens.
You have to. You can't be aware of your infinite cosmic nature and also be worried about, potty training.
Wait, hold on. Required amnesia. The word required is what's getting me. You're saying this is a feature, not a bug.
It is absolutely a feature of the system.
That feels, cruel. Why would the system be designed that way? Why do I have to forget my own divinity just to learn how to tie my shoes? It feels like a massive design flaw.
It feels that way from our perspective, doesn't it? But imagine if you didn't forget. Just for a second. Imagine a child who is fully, constantly aware of their cosmic, infinite, non-dual nature.
Good.
Would they care about learning to walk? Would they care about the alphabet? Would they care about forming social bonds with their parents or friends? You need a certain degree of identification with the limit itself to even participate in the game of life.
Yeah.
You need the ego to navigate the world.
Okay, I think I see that. You need the avatar to play the video game.
Yeah.
If you're just staring at the source code, you can't actually play.
That's a perfect analogy. So the amnesia is required. It's not a punishment, it's a growth mechanism. However, and this is the massive life-defining however, the problem arises when we make that amnesia permanent.
We get stuck in the avatar. We completely forget there's a player holding the controller.
Correct. The tragedy isn't the forgetting. The tragedy is that we never remember. The real challenge for parents and for educators, and this is a heavy burden, I won't lie, is to ensure that while the child is developing all these other faculties, while they are building their ego and their worldly skills, that the path back home, the path back to Shabda, isn't blocked.
Or concreted over.
Or concreted over, exactly. We want the path to have the least resistance for when they are ready to make that return journey.
You don't want to make it impossible.
We want to make sure that when they hit 18 or 25 or 40 and they inevitably ask that question, who am I really? The door isn't well or shut by their upbringing.
This brings us to the analogy in the source material that absolutely blew my mind. I really want to spend some time on this because I think every parent listening needs to visualize this clearly. It compares the child's developing personality to building a palace.
It's a powerful and, frankly, a terrifying visual. So imagine your child is building a massive, intricate palace. This palace represents their worldview, their ego, their personality, their entire understanding of how the world works.
Every belief is a brick.
Every belief. This is good, this is bad, this is how money works, this is how love works. They are laying these bricks every single day with every interaction.
And as a parent, you are the chief supplier of bricks. You are handing them the materials.
You're the foreman on the construction site. Now, here is the catch. As a guru, or as a wise parent who understands this process, you know something the child doesn't. You know that this palace is going to face a massive Category 5 earthquake.
The teenage years.
Adolescence. The onset of adulthood. That period where the brain literally rewires itself, where the need for independence kicks in, where the world suddenly stops being a safe, predictable nursery and becomes a complex, ambiguous, often harsh reality.
So the breakdown is inevitable. It's part of the plan.
It is biological and psychological law. The child must deconstruct their childhood view of the world in order to construct an adult view. They have to knock down some walls to expand the palace.
So the critical question isn't, how do I stop the earthquake? Because you can't. The question is, what materials am I giving them to build a palace in the first place?
Exactly. And this is where the Gurukulam approach diverges sharply, violently, even from so much of modern parenting. Modern parenting, with the best of intentions, often hands the child rigid concrete blocks, steel beams, materials that are strong, yes, but they have zero flexibility.
Okay, but play devil's advocate for a second. Why do parents love the concrete blocks?
Yeah.
Because they look safe, right? They feel secure. If I tell my kid, lying is always wrong, period, no exceptions, that feels solid. It feels like I've done my job as a parent. I've built a strong moral foundation.
It feels efficient. It's a shortcut. You give them binary code. Do this, don't do that. Success is good. Failure is bad. Our religion is right. Theirs is wrong. It creates a structure that looks very stable and impressive when the child is 6. They are obedient. They are clear. There are no fuzzy lines.
But the source contrasts this with giving them glass bricks or plastic Lego bricks.
Think about Lego for a moment. You can build a magnificent castle with Lego. It looks solid, it functions, it can be incredibly detailed. But when the earthquake of adolescence hits, when the child faces a situation where the simple rules don't apply or when they need to expand their understanding, what happens to the Lego castle?
Well, you can take it apart. You can pop the bricks off and reconfigure them.
Yeah.
You can add a new wing or change the layout. It doesn't shatter, it transforms.
But if you built that same castle out of rigid, pre-poured concrete, if you built a worldview based on unshakable absolute,
it cracks. And when concrete cracks under pressure, the whole structure is compromised. It's ruined. You can't just patch a load-bearing concrete wall that is snapped in two.
And that is what we are seeing today. Look around at the mental health crisis happening in high schools and universities. We are seeing young adults who are cracking. And it's not because they are weak. It's because their foundational worldview was too rigid to accommodate the complexities and paradoxes of adult life.
So they encounter a moral gray area or a failure or a challenge to their core identity.
And because their palace can't flex, it just collapses. And they are left sitting in the rubble with no idea how to rebuild.
Let's dive deeper into this morality trap because I found this part fascinating. Most parents think they're doing the right thing here. We're obsessed with teaching values, but we teach values as rules.
It's so counterintuitive. We crave that binary, good boy, bad boy, truth, lie. But life, and particularly the higher spiritual path, is rarely, if ever, black and white. If a child is brought up with extremely rigid ideas of morality, absolute rights, and absolute wrongs, they lose the capacity for nuance.
And without nuance, you're in serious trouble when you open the big texts of our culture.
You're lost. Correct. Look at the Bhagavad Gita. Look at the Ramayana. These are not simple lists of 10 commandments. They are deep, complex explorations of Dharma.
And let's define that properly. Dharma isn't just doing the right thing versus doing the wrong thing. That's the comic book version.
No, that is a kindergarten understanding. The source material is clear. Dharma is often about finding the appropriate choice of action when you are faced with 2 rights.
2 rights, not a right and a wrong.
Or sometimes 2 wrongs. It's about context. It's about duty versus emotion. It's about the greater good versus the immediate harm. It's about navigating paradox.
That is a huge distinction. The appropriate choice of action when faced between 2 rights. That requires incredible mental flexibility. That requires a palace built of glass bricks.
It requires a mind that can see through the structure, not just stare at a solid wall. If a child has a mind built of concrete, they look at the Gita, where Arjuna is being told by the divine to fight his own family. Their rigid moral system, their programming, says violence is bad, killing family is the ultimate bad. So they look at Krishna and they just get a system error.
Their whole operating system crashes. They think Krishna must be wrong, or this book is barbaric and primitive.
Exactly. They simplify it to fit their rigid box, or they discard the text entirely. They say, oh, I'm a pacifist. I don't believe in this violence. They miss the entire vast metaphysical teaching about duty and detachment because their preparation phase, their childhood, gave them a mind that cannot handle paradox.
So the first great challenge in reviving the Gurukulam system is this. Are we as parents brave enough to raise children with flexible morality? Are we brave enough to plan for the eventual demolition of their childhood beliefs so they can build a real adult spiritual life?
That is a lot to digest. It really changes the whole job description of a parent, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're not the enforcer of rules. You're the architect of flexibility. You have to be willing to teach them lying is usually bad, but then why did Krishna advise Yudhisthira to lie in the war? Let's talk about that. You have to introduce the gray areas early.
And that ties so perfectly into the reason for the Exploring Pramanas kit. I want to keep bringing this back to the practical solution. The kit isn't just about learning some fancy Sanskrit terms. It's designed to introduce these tools of knowledge, these flexible building blocks early on.
Yes. It teaches a child how to know, not just what to know. It gives them the mental software to handle complexity, so that by the time they are teenagers and the earthquake hits, they don't crack. They pivot. They adapt.
Okay, let's move to the second challenge. This one is less about the child and more about us, the adults, the mentors, the belief systems of mentors.
This is where we have to turn the mirror on ourselves, and it can be uncomfortable. The core argument here from the source is that the activity the child is doing matters far, far less than the belief system of the person who is guiding them through that activity.
That's a big statement. We obsess over activities. Piano lessons, coding camp, farm stays, Vedic math classes. We think the activity itself does the work. If I put my kid in a Gurukulam where they herd cows, they will automatically become spiritual.
But the activity is just a vessel. It's a container. The content, the emotional and spiritual liquid that fills that container comes directly from the mentor's lens, the parent's worldview. The source gives a brilliant, crystal clear example here using agriculture or farming.
I love this. It's the tale of three parents. Let's walk through it in detail, because the nuance here is everything. So imagine three different parents and their three different kids. They're all standing in a field. They're all planting the exact same seeds in the exact same soil.
Right. Let's look at parent number one. This is the urban dweller, the modern professional. Maybe they work in tech, live in a high-rise in Bangalore or Mumbai or even Silicon Valley. They take their kid to a farm experience for the weekend. What is their belief system about this activity?
They think it's grounding, it's romantic. Look, beta, touch the soil, connect to your roots. Isn't this organic? Isn't this so beautiful and rustic? It's very Instagrammable.
It is. It's a vacation from their real life in the city. They view farming as a therapeutic break. So what does the child learn from this? Does the child learn that the earth is the sacred source of all life?
No.
No.
The child learns that nature is a nice place to visit. It's a scenic backdrop for a weekend. It's a petting zoo.
It's a commodity. Nature's there to make me feel relaxed so I can go back to my real important job on Monday.
The roots are very, very shallow.
Okay, so that's parent one.
Exactly. Shallow roots. Now let's look at parent number two. This is the actual farmer, but a very specific kind of farmer. This is the farmer who has struggled his whole life. This is the reality for millions. Maybe they face drought, crippling debt, market crashes. They have calluses on their hands and deep worry in their eyes. For them, this occupation is the source of their poverty.
So when their kid is in that field, standing in that same mud, what is the parent thinking? What is the nonverbal vibration they are projecting onto that child?
The parent is thinking, study hard so you don't end up stuck here like me. Go to the city. Become an engineer. Sit in an air-conditioned office. Escape this life.
Wow, just think about that for a second. The child is planting a seed, which is an act of creation, an act of hope. But the energy they're absorbing from their own parent is, this is punishment, this is failure, this is a trap you must escape.
So even if the physical activity is planting seeds, the real lesson is escapism.
Precisely. The activity is farming, but the internal software being installed is get out. Now let's look at the third one, parent number three. The source calls this one the agriculturist, the one who holds the traditional Bharatiya view.
Right. This is the parent who believes the earth is Bhumi Devi, the mother, that all prosperity, all life, all wealth ultimately comes from the soil. The one who understands that Anna, food, is Brahman, divinity.
Yes, for this parent, agriculture isn't a job, and it's certainly not a vacation. It's a sacred duty. It's a partnership with the divine feminine energy of the universe. When they touch the soil, they are touching Prakriti.
And for that child, growing a crop it's an act of worship. It's an interaction with a living, breathing being.
Same seeds, same soil, same sun. 3 completely different internal worlds are being created for the child.
That really, really drives the point home. We can't just plug and play ancient activities into our modern lives and expect the same results. If we don't have the software, the belief system, we're just role-playing. If I take my kid to a farm, but I internally believe that real success is a corner office in a skyscraper, my kid will know. They'll feel it.
Kids are telepathic when it comes to their parents' beliefs. They download your subconscious, not your lectures. And this connects directly back to Shabda. The source makes another critical point here. You cannot connect to your spiritual self just by touching dirt.
It's not automatic.
It's not. Nature for Kruti is powerful, yes.
Yeah.
It is the feminine energy of the universe. But the connection doesn't happen by osmosis.
You need a bridge. You need a translation layer.
You need a structure. You need the guidance that is provided in the scriptures. The source specifically mentions the Prakriti Nyayas. These are maxims or systems of logic that teach us how to observe nature to understand deeper truths.
So it's not just look at the tree. It's here's how to look at the tree to understand the universe.
Exactly. Without the Nyayas, without that scriptural lens, a tree is just wood. Maybe it's lumber. Maybe it's shade. With the lens, the tree becomes a profound teacher. It teaches you about resilience, about roots, about the cycle of time, about selfless giving.
This directly challenges that very modern, very Western Rousseauian notion of just let them play outside and they'll find themselves.
It obliterates it. No, they will find mud. They might find some fun. To find Shabda, they need a guide who already sees the Shabda in the mud.
And if the parent doesn't have that lens, if most of us, honestly, are parent number 1 or parent number 2,
then the child won't find it. That is the hard truth of it. You cannot give what you do not have.
This is why the Exploring Pramanas kit is so interesting to me. It sounds like it's trying to give parents that very lens. Because let's be honest, most of us, even if we want to be parent number 3, we are probably parent number 1. We are the urban dwellers trying to find meaning. We need help. We need a manual.
We do. We are the generation that largely lost the lens. So we have to re-educate ourselves, perhaps alongside our children. We need to relearn how to see the world.
Speaking of relearning, let's talk about our relationship with the classics. This is another mind blower for me in the source material. I want to talk about the Panchatantra.
Ah, yes. The Panchatantra. The great misunderstood masterpiece.
I grew up with these stories. I mean, who didn't? The monkey and the crocodile, the tortoise and the geese. I bought the colorful illustrated books for my nieces and nephews. I always thought they were just, bedtime stories for toddlers. Simple moral fables. Don't lie, don't be greedy, be a good friend.
You and millions of others. And the source argues that this is a tragedy of epic proportions. We have taken what is essentially a nuclear weapon of wisdom, and we've turned it into a plastic toy.
Why? What's the real story here? Give us the historical context that most of us completely missed.
Okay, let's look at the origin. The author is Vishnu Sharma. He wasn't a kindergarten teacher or writer of children's books. He was a master strategist, a guru, a scholar of Arthashastra, of statecraft. And his students, they weren't toddlers.
They were princes.
Teenage princes, the sons of a king named Aparashakti. And let's try to paint a realistic picture of these boys. They probably weren't sweet little kids. They were likely arrogant, entitled, unteachable teenagers who had already driven every other tutor in the kingdom away.
So the king was desperate.
The king was in a crisis. He was worried about the succession of his kingdom. He saw his entire legacy falling apart because his sons were, to put it bluntly, fools.
So this wasn't about story time to make them sleepy. This was a national emergency.
It was. The king needed these boys to learn statecraft, politics, strategy, war, and alliances. And he didn't have much time. A traditional mentorship in a Gurukulam would take 12 years. The king was panicking. And this is when Vishnu Sharma stepped up and made an incredibly bold claim.
What did he say?
He said, I will make them wise in 6 months.
6 months? That's a crash course. That's an executive MBA on steroids for future kings.
It was an intensive boot camp of wisdom, and his primary tool was a series of 72 stories, but, and this is the absolute key, he didn't use them to teach morality in the simple Victorian sense. He wasn't trying to teach them to be nice boys. He was teaching them to be effective kings.
Okay, what's the real difference between teaching morality and teaching wisdom in this context?
Morality says, do not lie. Wisdom asks, when is truth beneficial and when is it destructive? How do you recognize a spy who is lying to you? How do you manage alliances with untrustworthy neighbors? How do you defeat an enemy who is stronger than you? using intelligence.
It's strategic thinking.
It's strategic thinking of the highest order. The text uses a pramana called arthapati. This means implication or presumption.
Ah.
Okay.
We need to anchor this concept, arthapati. It's one of the six pramanas. Can we break it down with a real example?
Sure. Arthapati is the ability to derive a truth that is necessary to explain an apparent contradiction. The classic old-school example in the textbooks is, Devadatta is fat, but he never eats during the day.
Okay, so logic or Anumana would say if you don't eat, you should lose weight.
Right.
So there is a contradiction right there.
Right. So arthapati kicks in to resolve it. The necessary implication, the presumption you must make is, he must be eating at night. You presume a fact that you haven't seen in order to explain what you have seen.
Okay, that makes sense. Can you give me a more modern example? That one feels a bit dusty.
Of course. Imagine you are in a corporate office. You have a colleague who, by all observable metrics, is incompetent. They never answer emails. They never speak up in meetings. They are always late. By all logical metrics, your anumana, they should be fired.
Sure.
But then at the end of the year, they get a massive promotion and a huge bonus.
The contradiction. Incompetent person gets rewarded. It makes no logical sense.
Your logic fails. But arthapati steps in. You presume there must be a hidden variable. They must be related to the boss. Or they must have solved a massive confidential crisis offline that I don't know about.
You are reading between the lines to find the hidden truth that resolves the paradox.
And Vishnu Sharma used these animal fables to teach that specific skill to teenage princes.
Exactly. He used the stories to sharpen their ability to derive meaning, to spot patterns, to deduce the hidden motives of ministers and enemies. It was high-level cognitive training disguised in a narrative format.
Okay, so here is the tragedy. Yeah. What happens when we take this high-level political strategy manual and read it to a 4-year-old as a simple, be nice to your friends story? Two terrible things happen. First, the 4-year-old gets a watered-down and often totally incorrect version of the lesson. They just hear, don't be greedy, when the real lesson might actually be about calculating risk versus reward in a strategic venture. But the bigger, more lasting tragedy is the second thing.
The immunization effect.
Yes. When that child becomes a teenager, the actual target age the book was written for, the age where they need to learn about strategy and statecraft and human nature, they look at the Panchatantra and what do they say?
Oh, that's baby stuff. I read that when I was in diapers. That's just whimsical stories about talking monkeys.
And they dismiss it. They walk right past the gold mine because they were told it was a sandbox when they were children.
They dismiss the very tool that was designed to make them wise at that specific age. They throw away the manual for wisdom because they think it's a toy.
That is heartbreaking when you think about it. It's like giving a child a sophisticated scientific calculator to use as a hammer for their Play-Doh. And then years later, when they get to calculus class, they say, oh, I'm too old for that hammer. Give me something serious.
That is a perfect analogy. We have degraded our own wisdom tools by introducing them too early and with the completely wrong intent. We've stripped the pramanas out of the Panchatantra and left an empty shell.
A hollowed-out moral tale.
And this brings us back to the mission of Leela Gurukulam and this Exploring Pramanas kit. It feels like a direct attempt to reclaim these texts, to say, wait, come back, let's look at this again, but this time with the eyes of a young adult, with the proper tools of logic and implication.
Yes, it's about honoring the intelligence of the student. Vishnu Sharma respected those princes enough to challenge them. We need to do the same for our children. We need to be able to say, this isn't a story about a monkey. This is a complex case study in betrayal and intelligence. Let's analyze it.
I want to pivot now to a specific case study that the source mentions. We've talked about him before in this series, but he really embodies this struggle between that deep traditional connection and the interference of the modern world. Srinivasa Ramanujan.
The genius mathematician. Although to call him just a mathematician is almost too small a word, he was a seer. A mystic who spoke in the language of numbers.
The source says he was completely connected to his Shabda.
He was, and we have to understand, his knowledge did not come from textbooks. He didn't derive his formulas by sitting there and crunching numbers in a linear, logical fashion. He said they came to him. He would see these incredibly complex mathematical formulas unfold before his eyes, in visions, in dreams.
And where did he say these visions came from?
From his family deity. The Devada, Namajiri Devi.
Okay, now let's apply our framework to him. Look at his preparation and the belief system of his mentors, his parents. They were traditional.
Deeply. Their belief system was completely centered around the temple and the Devada. They didn't see Namagiri Devi as a stone statue. They didn't see her as a superstition or a metaphor. They saw her as a living, guiding, intelligent presence in their lives.
So they provided that flexible palace we were talking about.
They provided a palace where the divine could literally walk in. They didn't block the door with scientific rationality or rigid skepticism. They didn't tell him, stop talking to imaginary friends and do your math homework. They understood that the imaginary friend was the source of the math. They nurtured and supported his connection.
But then the interference happened. He went to Cambridge. He met G.H. Hardy.
The modern education system, the Western academic world, and when he tried to bring his revelation, these diamonds from another reality, into that world, what did they ask him for?
Proofs.
Yeah.
Steps. Show your work.
Show your work. They wanted him to translate his lightning-fast spiritual intuition into the slow, plodding, step-by-step language of linear logic. And he couldn't always do it. The source calls this a failure of the bridge. The modern education system did not permit the bridge from his spiritual revelations to their expression in the human world to solidify properly.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how many Ramanujans we have lost? How many children had that kind of connection, but the school system just beat it out of them? Or the parents were too embarrassed by it to let it flourish?
It's a sobering thought. We have likely medicated, shamed, or simply educated the mysticism out of millions of children. And this brings us to the crucial role of the Devatas.
The source is very specific here. It says Devatas are the simplest and most effective engagements for wisdom. But we really need to define Devata properly, because that word carries a lot of baggage in the modern world.
Yeah. So much baggage. In the modern world, we have bracketed Devatas, the gods and goddesses, strictly as religious symbols. We've put them in the religion box. You pray to them, you light a lamp, maybe you ask for a good grade or a new job. You might fear them.
It's very transactional. I give you a coconut, you give me a visa.
It's transactional and it's compartmentalized. It's something you do on a Tuesday or in a temple. But in the Gurukulam system, Devatas are not just religious figures. They are wisdom tools. They are archetypes. They are cognitive and spiritual interfaces.
Like Namagiri Devi was for Ramanujan. She wasn't just a figure for him to worship. She was the user interface for mathematics.
Exactly. Think of your computer. You have a powerful operating system. You interact with it through icons. You click a folder icon to access data. The Devata is the icon. Saraswati isn't just a goddess of learning. She is the very flow of knowledge. She is the interface through which you access the cosmic database of wisdom.
That is a radical shift in perspective. And when we categorize them strictly as religion, we effectively deny our children access to these powerful psychological tools. We tell them, this is for the temple, not this is for understanding how your own mind works.
And generations have lost access because of this fundamental miscategorization. We have lost the user manual for our own culture. We kept some of the hardware, the statues, the rituals, the temples, but we lost the software, the deep understanding of Devatas as cognitive and spiritual tools for self-realization.
This is a perfect segue to where this whole series is going next.
It is. We are wrapping up our deep dive into Pramanas, the means of knowledge. But you can't talk about knowledge for long without talking about the ultimate source of knowledge.
So the next episode of the Gurukulam series is going to focus specifically and deeply on Devatas.
We are going to ask the hard questions. What are Devatas really? Beyond the mythology, beyond the rituals. How do they operate in an educational journey? How do we take them out of the religion box and put them back into the wisdom box where they belong? How do we help a child find their specific interface, like Ramanujan found his?
I honestly cannot wait for that. That sounds like another paradigm shift waiting to happen.
It's the missing piece of the puzzle, in many ways.
But before we get there, we have to deal with the here and now. We've laid out these huge challenges, the rigid preparation that creates these concrete palaces, the parental belief systems that turn nature into a commodity, the misunderstood texts like the Panchatantra, the disconnect from the Devatas. It feels heavy. It feels like we have made a real mess of things.
It is heavy. I feel it too. But it's not hopeless. In fact, recognizing the mess is the first and most critical step to cleaning it up. And that's why I'm genuinely excited about this Exploring Pramanas kit.
Let's bring it all back to that. February 25th, 2026. Next Wednesday.
This kit is the bridge we've been talking about. It's designed for children age 10 and up, and, importantly, for adults as well. That age range is so crucial. It catches them right before or during that palace broke-down phase of adolescence.
It gives them the glass bricks we were talking about.
It gives them the glass bricks. It provides the vocabulary and the structure to think critically and spiritually at the same time. It teaches them about arthapati implication, about anumana, inference, about shabda, verbal testimony. It gives them the keys to decode texts like the Panchatantra properly so they don't dismiss it as a fairy tale.
And it helps the parents, too. It helps solve that belief system problem, or at least starts the process. Because if you're a parent using this kit with your child, you are learning right alongside them. You are consciously shifting yourself from parent number 1, the tourist, to parent number 3, the seeker.
It creates a shared language, and that is the most powerful thing you can have in a family. When you can look at a situation, maybe a conflict at school, or a news story, or a big decision about college, and you can say, which pramana are we using here? Are we just using logic? Or are we missing a hidden variable? Are we building with concrete or with glass right now? That changes the dinner table conversation forever.
It moves education back into the home in a real meaningful way, not just homework help, but actual wisdom cultivation.
And that is the essence of the Gurukulam. It's not a building, it's a relationship. It's a lineage of thought.
So let's summarize the mission here. To revive the Indian education system, we don't just need new schools. We need 4 things. First, flexibility in childhood building with Lego, not concrete.
Yes.
Second, we need parents who are willing to check their own belief systems and the lenses through which they see the world.
Crucial.
Third, a reevaluation of our own classics.
Yeah.
Treating them as the high-level strategy guides they truly are. And finally, recognizing the disconnect caused by modern systems so we can protect and nurture the next Ramanujan.
And we need the tools to do it. We can't do it on theory alone.
The Exploring Pramanas kit from Leela Gurukulam. Do not miss the drop on Feb 25th.
It's a rare opportunity to get practical, hands-on tools for this very deep, very theoretical problem we've discussed.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought. We talked a lot about that palace. I want you to look at your child today. Or if you don't have kids, look at your own mind. Look at how you react to change, to ambiguity, to challenge.
What are you building with?
Exactly. Are you handing your child glass bricks values that let the light in, that can bend and adapt without breaking? Or are you building a rigid concrete bunker of do's and don'ts that is doomed to crack the moment the real world hits it with full force?
And if you find you've been building with concrete, remember, it's never too late to start swapping it out for glass. It's messier, it takes more work, but it's the only way to build a structure that can last a lifetime.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a real journey.
A pleasure, as always.
Keep an eye out for the kit. We'll see you in the next deep dive where we finally get to meet the Devavatas. Until then, keep learning.